Live from our culture studios in Blantyre, we bring you the morning edition of MBC News. Enjoy with me, Ubile Kaisa. Coming up. President Mutharika and the First Lady, Madam Gertrude Mutharika, expressed sadness over the death of former Flames forward Esau Kanyenda. Government intensifies food and relief distribution exercise in the country. And Parliament passes the Taxation Amendment Bill and the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill of 2025, aimed at redeeming the country's economy. And now the news in detail. President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika and the First Lady, Professor Gertrude Mutharika, have expressed grief at the sudden demise of former Flames forward Esau Kanyenda. President Mutharika described Kanyenda's death as a big loss to the country. In his message, the Malawi leader said Kanyenda's death has robbed Malawi, a man who devoted his energy to raising the country's national flag, high across Africa and Europe. At the height of his career, Kanyenda played a pivotal role in securing Malawi's qualification for the Angola 2010 Africa Cup of Nations. Meanwhile, former Flames midfielder Fisher Kondowe has described the late Esau Kanyenda as a true legend who dedicated his life to football. Kanyenda died of liver cancer on Tuesday. Speaking to MBC, Kondowe, who played with Kanyenda, said Kanyenda was a talented striker who broke the record of being the first Malawian footballer to play in UEFA Champions League. Kondowe explains.
Well, now what I can say, Mamba was my youth brother, and the way we were, I was staying with him. It was a thing that even me, what has happened, I can't believe it, because the way I was talking to Mom, each and every time, if I had a problem, he had a problem, he would tell me whatever what is happening. So about his illness, he told me that he had a stomach problem, but he didn't tell me about the cancer until yesterday when I heard it on the Facebook, him telling people that they are finding with cancer. It's when I knew that it's something wrong. And the time I tried to communicate to him, I talked to his brother, the one who was telling me that Mamba is gonna call you. Until today, Mamba didn't call me, and Mamba is gone. I was thinking that in future maybe I will coach together with Mamba, but in the way things are going, I can't say anything. It's in God's hands, so I can't say anything. Esau, he was a great striker. I played with him for a long time at the national team, even at the club. Although he was playing for Wanderers, but we could communicate like brothers. Whether there's a derby, we will be together on Friday, but on Saturday we will be enemies. After the game, we will be friends again.
The Football Legends Association of Malawi has also expressed shock with the demise of Kanyenda. Jim Kalua, this is according to Jim Kalua, the association's board chairperson. The Vice President, Dr. Jane Ansah, has warned officials involved in distributing food and relief items to hunger-affected families to avoid corruption, stressing that anyone caught will face the law. She issued the warning at Nsanja Ground, where she led the distribution of food and essential supplies to over 26,000 affected households, where Cecilia Stewart reports.
At the launch, the country's Vice President, Justice Dr. Jane Ansah SC retired, stressed that the declaration of state disaster in the country was meant to speed up nationwide food distributions, saying government did not want affected families to wait any longer for support. She commended local and international organizations for their swift response, saying their partnership is crucial in reducing the suffering of hunger-stricken communities.
The response has been good. We have received the support both from within Malawi and also at international level. That's why today we are here, because of the assistance we have received.
The Vice President also warned against abuse of the program, urging beneficiaries to report any malpractice and stressing that the law will deal with anyone who takes advantage of vulnerable families.
Anyone who receives this maize and sells to anybody, especially the vendors, the law will take its course. Both the seller and the buyer, they will be brought to book.
For many families, the intervention comes at a critical moment. Justice Dr. Jane Ansah later presided over the ceremonial distribution of the food and toured a warehouse to inspect and verify stock in readiness for onward distribution. More than 26,234 households in Msanje are expected to benefit. Each household will receive 50 kilograms of maize every month for 5 months, plus cash transfers from partners including the Red Cross, CARD, Concern Worldwide, and JEFOP. Waseslas Shira, MBC News, Msanje.
Later, the Vice President launched the program in Chikhwawa with a call for humanitarian organizations to join hands with government in supporting households affected by hunger. Chisomo Break reports.
The appeal by the Vice President comes at a time when the recent Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee (MVAC) report indicates that a total of 43,000 households in Chikhwawa will not be able to meet their annual food requirement during the 2025-2026 lean period.
We are here today distributing maize in Chikhwawa because the government has held hands together with the companies, organizations within and outside the country who have given help, and we continue to call for this support because the people that are affected, the 43,000, it is only Chikhwawa, but we have people the whole country, all the 28 districts. The people that are affected, they are 4 million plus. So we need more maize, more food to distribute.
The Vice President further advised people living in disaster-prone areas to move uplands to avoid emergencies as the country continues to receive rains.
We should always be prepared for any negativity if it comes. So we will not allow the people to be where they know it's an area prone to disaster. We are asking them, because this is what happened last year was not for the first time or the second time. So people know the areas that are easily affected. We are asking them to move to safer places so that should we have floods this year, they should be safe. Their property should also be safe.
During the launch in Chikhwawa, Dr. Ansah distributed maize to some of the affected households, including one, Nelia Langton, from Group Village Head Migano. Langton hailed government for responding swiftly to the food shortage situation. Before launching the initiative, the Vice President, Dr. Jane Ansah, stopped by at Kapasule Village in the area of Traditional Authority Katunga and shared some households affected by last week's stormy rains there. This is a direct intervention by government following the recent Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee (MVAC) report that indicated that over 4 million people are food insecure in the country. Chisomo Break, MBC News, Chikhwawa.
In a related development, about 26,500 people affected by hunger in Ncheu have been assured of food assistance from government. Speaking to MBC, Disaster Risk Management Officer for Ncheu, Walusungu Mwafulirwa, said the assistance will also extend to those affected by stormy rains in the district. According to Mwafulirwa, the relief food assistance will run up to the next harvesting season. Mwafulirwa speaks to our reporter Charles Pensulo.
Basically, just like another district here in Malawi, we have been hit by issues of stormy rains, where we registered cases in Tiemawanga, where about 257 people also were affected, and because of these people lost some of their household utensils as well as food items. So we also thought it was that people should be given food under the Rain Season Response Program. As you can see today, that will be targeting the 26,139 people who will be beneficiaries under this project, and they are supposed to benefit from this project for 3 months. Yeah, so basically here in Ncheu, year in year out, we experience issues of dry spells. So because of dry spells, people, they actually tend to have like low harvests each and every year. So because of that, people, they experience issues of hunger almost every year. So that is why we have this problem of hunger almost every year. So obviously they will be saved in the sense that they will be given food items to cover for the lean period where they will not have adequate food to cover for themselves.
The Ministry of Finance has pledged to be accountable and transparent in the utilization of funds for the lean season National Food Security Response Plan. Minister of Finance Joseph Mwanamveka was speaking when Airtel Malawi donated 300 million kwacha for the cause. Mwanamveka has since commended Airtel Malawi for showing commitment to the well-being of its customers through the donation. Details in this report.
Speaking during the handover of the 300 million kwacha check to the Ministry of Finance, Airtel Malawi Managing Director Ashish Dutt pointed out that Airtel remains committed to addressing critical challenges its clients continues to face, like the hunger situation, as well as connectivity challenges. Dutt has since pledged to work with the government in restoring dignity and hope for families affected by the hunger situation.
So we want to partner with the government in this humanitarian cause to see that as a serious corporate citizen and a responsible corporate citizen, we play our part towards it.
And Minister of Finance Joseph Mwanamveka has commended the private sector for the overwhelming response towards the National Food Security Response Plan. Mwanamveka stresses the need for a stronger collaboration, adding that addressing the food crisis is a shared national responsibility.
So we have seen that now the private sector is coming forward. After our President, Professor Tarika, had declared that we were in a situation of disaster. So I think on behalf of our President, Professor Tarika, and also on behalf of the ministry, I would like to thank the board, management, and the staff of Airtel Malawi PLC for the support you have given us.
Through the National Food Security Response Plan, government intends to mobilize 387 billion kwacha towards the procurement of 200,000 metric tons of maize for food insecure and vulnerable households. Trust Office, MBC News, Lilongwe.
The Minister of Agriculture, Rosa Fachimbilizi, has issued a warning to civil servants against interfering in the farm input subsidy program. This follows revelations that about 3,800 government employees inserted their names into the system to benefit from subsidized farm inputs. Mbilizi made the remarks in Lilongwe during a press briefing on the status of FSIP. She also disclosed that government is working with law enforcement agencies to track down individuals who redeemed fertilizer through the fraudulent means. Chinsisi Moyo has filed this report.
On Tuesday afternoon, Minister of Agriculture, Irrigation and Water Development, Rosa Fachimbilizi, updated the media on progress of the Farm Input Subsidy Program FSIP since its launch on November 12. Mbilizi said while the government is largely on track, her ministry has received reports that some clerks are demanding extra payments from beneficiaries when they buy fertilizer, despite the official price being 10,000 kwacha. She also expressed concern that about 3,800 civil servants allegedly inserted their names in the system to benefit from subsidized inputs.
It's disheartening that some civil servants decided to put themselves on the list of beneficiaries when they are not supposed to be beneficiaries. As I said, we have a list of over 3,500 civil servants. So I sounded that warning. Maybe it's not a warning at all because they have put themselves on the list. We are investigating who put them on the list, why, and the law will take its course according to their conditions of service and work ethics.
Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Ben Piri echoed the concerns, saying his ministry has also received reports of traditional leaders interfering with the distribution process.
To advise all goodwill Malawians to watch out and report any chief, and I mean any, they must report because this is taxpayers' money.
Despite the setbacks, Mbilizi said all FSIP fertilizer is expected to arrive in the country by mid-December. She noted that currently only 12 out of every 100 beneficiaries have received their fertilizer, but assured that all eligible farmers will be served before the end of the month.
We expect all the fertilizer to be in the country in the next 2 weeks, especially the fertilizer from Zambia. But from our private suppliers, we are buying most of the urea, and we think it should be in all of it towards the end of December.
This year, FISIP is targeting 1.1 million beneficiaries, including 1,800 households. Chinsisi Moyo, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Remember, you are watching the morning edition of MBC News. A reminder of our top stories. President Mutharika and the First Lady, Madam Gertrude Mutharika, expressed sadness over the death of former Flames forward Esau Kanyenda. Government intensifies food and relief distribution exercise in the country. And Parliament passes the Taxation Amendment Bill and the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill of 2025, aimed at redeeming the country's economy. Welcome back. Parliament has passed two bills, namely the Taxation Amendment Bill and the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill of 2025. Speaking after adjourning the House, Leader of the House, Japi Mhango, said these are measures that aim to help in redeeming the country's economy. Margaret Mapando has more in this report.
When Parliament reconvened on Monday, the Minister of Finance, Joseph Mwanamveka, concluded debate on the 2025 to 2026 Media Budget Review Statement he presented in the Chamber on November 21, 2025. Following this, the House proceeded to the Committee of Supply, where they reviewed and approved budget allocations across different ministries and departments. The House later passed the 2025 to 2026 Media Budget Review without any amendments. Minister of Finance Joseph Mwanamveka says they have increased funding to some votes and trimmed others to align with the fiscal plan.
Because I think in the revised budget, it's about 512 billion kwacha, and additional that has been spent. I want to say that I want people to understand why, where is that 512 coming from? Mainly it's coming from the fact that I think most of the, some of the ministries had overspent. Most of it, maybe 70%, and there are some specific ones that almost spent 100%. For example, the State House, OPC, the Office of the Vice President, I think they overspent all the money. So we couldn't close those offices. We had to at least provide more resources to spend on that.
Parliament has approved the revised 2025 to 2026 national budget, totaling to about 8.5 trillion kwacha, after debating and voting on 62 budget votes. According to the Minister of Finance, the budget aims to address socio-economic challenges and improve service delivery, among others. Margaret Mapando, MBC News, Lilongwe.
The Parliamentary Committee on Social and Community Affairs has called for stronger collaboration in mobilizing resources for disability affairs and enhancing inclusive education to ensure children with special needs are not left behind. Speaking during an interface with organizations of persons with disabilities at Parliament Building in Lilongwe, Committee Chairperson Savio Kafwafwa expressed concern over the limited funding allocated to the Department of Disability Affairs and the Disability Trust Fund, which received 500 million kwacha in the current national budget.
We really appreciate the efforts of the government because that Disability Trust Fund is now at 500 million. But we have almost 2 million people with disabilities in Malawi. And so if you make your calculation, you will realize that if we use 2 million versus the 500 million that has been provided, then it is like we are almost giving each person with disability an investment of about 250 kwacha. And you know, in today's world, that might not give us the results that we are looking for, because the Disability Trust Fund looks into different organizations through Makoda. So we have lots and lots of organizations that are looking at persons with disabilities, and the needs are just too much, are just a lot. If you see people begging in the streets, sometimes it's just because this money in the Disability Trust Fund is not ticking down to them because it's just very little.
Federation of Disability Organizations in Malawi FEDOMA Executive Director Simon Munde highlighted the persistent challenges faced by persons with disabilities, including their minimal participation in decision-making processes.
One key thing that we've actually raised is the inadequate allocation to the Disability Trust Fund. The Disability Trust Fund, like in the current financial year, was given 500 million kwacha. And you're talking of a constituency that has more than 2 million Malawians. These are Malawians with disabilities, most of whom are looking for assistive devices, most of whom are looking for, are actually incurring disability extra costs, and there is nothing that can provide for them. And you heard from the Honorable Chair of the committee that the 500 million kwacha, it means it's actually divided and given 250 kwacha to each person with a disability. Would that be good enough? So it's important to consider this. The same applies to the 5 billion kwacha for the Constituency Development Fund. What we've suggested is that if they are talking of 100 million going to women, 100 million going to the youths, let the other 100 million go to persons with disabilities.
Minister of Information and Communications Technology, Shadrack Namalomba, has challenged the Malawi Communications Regulatory Authority, MACRA, to enhance its HIV/AIDS messages. Namalomba said this when he joined MACRA's activities on World AIDS Day in Blantyre.
I shared with them some insights into how we can respond to HIV, but in a different way, in a transformative way, considering that we are going through turbulent periods. We have a period where we are still struggling. We do not have forex, and therefore we cannot manage, to buy the high-end medicines to support even those that will be suffering. You recall that even what happened in America, they withheld donor aid, and to that extent, the health sector was the most hit, both for prevention as well as for after incident. So we needed to respond to HIV/AIDS differently, and considering that we are an information and communication technology, and MACRA is a regulator, it also champions innovative ways of communication, innovative ways of sharing information. I think it's high time that we began to look at ways of sharing that information. It should not be only printing T-shirts with messages. It should not be banners and so forth hung in the street, but we can do it different.
In her remarks, MACRA's Acting Director General Mphatso Phiri said the authority has already put in place measures of handling all HIV/AIDS related diseases. This year's World AIDS Day was commemorated under the theme Overcoming Disruption, Transforming the AIDS Response.
Every year we make sure that we take a step back, we sit down and talk about this pandemic, we commemorate, we sit down and reflect on how well we have done and what more we can do, both as an institution as well as individuals, as people. What can we do to make sure that we are part of this fight against the pandemic? And indeed, the Honourable Minister said it, that as a regulator of the communications industry, there is a role that we can play to make sure that the message goes out there, use the innovations that are out there to make sure that the right information is communicated to the people of Malawi. So indeed, we work with various stakeholders in the communications industry, and we will try to make sure in whatever way possible we do get the message out there about the HIV/AIDS pandemic, and we make sure that we drive and we're part of the response that Malawi takes against HIV/AIDS.
The Ministry of Gender, Disability and Social Welfare says the National Children's Commission, to be launched on 6 December this year, will provide the opportunity to harmonize and strengthen child-related interventions in the country. Speaking during a media briefing in Lilongwe, Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Oliver Kumbambe, said Malawi has had policies and laws related to child rights, but the implementation and coordination has remained a challenge, hence the need for the National Children's Commission. He explains.
At a higher level, we would want to have, as the law provides, an institution that would coordinate and harmonize activities that involve the protection, management and development of child affairs in the country. Hence, the launch of the National Children's Commission. It will be easy now that there will be a legally established coordination center. The Commission will be responsible for the coordination and harmonization of all activities that pertain to the protection of child rights, but also ensuring that our children are provided for in health, education, and their safety as well.
In his remarks, Chairperson for the Commission, Bishop Vincent Mwankwawa, said the Commission will be addressing gaps found in coordination and implementation of children-related interventions.
The area of focus will be the coordination. As you know, there's been a gap in coordination, but also monitoring and enforcement of, the policies on safeguarding of children. They are players, they are organizations, but there's been that gap in coordination. The third thing will be to mobilize resources because, we need to invest more in children, but also we need the government to have enough resources to ensure that children are protected and the laws are enforced so that children are cared for, especially in the communities and families where children are neglected.
That item concludes this edition of MBC News. A reminder of our top stories before we leave. President Mutharika and the First Lady, Madam Gertrude Mutharika, expressed sadness over the death of former Flames forward Esau Kanyenda. Government intensifies food and relief distribution exercise in the country. And Parliament passes the Taxation Amendment Bill and the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill of 2025, aimed at redeeming the country's economy. For more on these and other stories, visit our digital platforms by scanning the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen. You are with me, Opile Kaisa. Thanks for watching. Good morning.
Good morning, and it's time for weather forecast. Partly cloudy conditions are expected to persist over some areas, but we should also expect cloudy conditions accompanied by isolated thunderstorms, rains, as well as windy conditions to persist over some areas.